I am an American, and I killed Americans. I am a human being, and I killed human beings, and I did it in my society. Well, I'm not an expert. I'm not an authority. I'm someone who has been a murderer for almost 20 years.
The story of Ed Kemper, the 6'9" killer. Edmund Kemper, known as Ed, was born on December 18, 1948, in Burbank, California. His early life was troubled. His parents divorced when he was young, and he lived with his mother, Clarnell, who was harsh and often berated him. Ed felt lonely and unhappy at home. From a young age, Ed Kemper showed troubling signs. As a kid, he was different. He did cruel things to animals, like burying a cat alive and killing another with a knife. These actions made him feel powerful. Ed also did strange things with his sister's dolls. He cut off their heads and hands. This behavior was a warning sign, but people didn't realize how serious it was. Ed's home life was hard. His mother, Clarnell, was harsh and yelled at him a lot, making him feel angry and small. This bad environment made his dark thoughts worse. He invented scary games like pretending to be in a gas chamber where he would act like he was dying. These games showed his interest in death and control. When Ed was 15, things got much worse.
Physical objects, my possessions, other people's, destruction of things that are cared about, that are living on a lower level, small animals, insects, animals, and then finally people.
On August 27, 1964, after a fight with his grandmother, Maud Kemper, he shot her with a rifle. Then he shot his grandfather, Edmund Kemper I, when he came home. Ed said he killed them to see what it felt like. After the murders, Ed called his mother, who told him to call the police. He did, and waited calmly for them to arrive. This calmness showed how detached he could be. Because he was young, Ed was sent to Atascadero State Hospital, a place for young criminals with mental problems instead of prison. At the hospital, doctors tried to understand him. They thought he had paranoid schizophrenia, but later they realized he was just very smart and tricky. While at Atascadero, Ed learned a lot about psychology from the doctors and staff. He gained their trust and learned how the human mind works, which later helped him become more deceptive. Ed Kemper was released from Atascadero in 1969 after 5 years. The doctors thought he was better and no longer dangerous. They were wrong. Ed's early troubling behavior, the murders of his grandparents, were just the beginning. His dark thoughts were still there, waiting to come out in even worse ways. Ed was released at 21 and went to live with his mother again. But the dark thoughts in his mind didn't go away. Between May 1972 and April 1973, Ed did something that shocked everyone. He killed 8 women, mostly college students who were hitchhiking. He would pick them up in his car, then take their lives in terrible ways. After killing these women, Ed would do awful things to their bodies. He mutilated them, which means he cut them in horrible ways. Sometimes he kept their heads and buried them in his backyard. Ed's intelligence helped him avoid getting caught. He had a high IQ of 145, which he used to plan his crimes carefully.
I was raging inside. There was just incredible energies, positive and negative, depending on a mood.
Each of Ed's victims had a story, dreams, and hopes. One of his victims was Aiko Ku, a 15-year-old high school student. She was a talented dancer who dreamed of becoming a professional. On September 14, 1972, Aiko was hitchhiking to dance class when Ed picked her up. Her life was tragically cut short that day. Another victim was Cindy Schall, a 19-year-old college student. Cindy was known for her kindness and was studying to become a teacher. On January 7, 1973, she was hitchhiking when Ed offered her a ride. Her family and friends were devastated by her loss. The most shocking part of Ed's story came at the end.
I'm saying I've wanted to kill my mother since I was 8 years old, and I'm not proud of that. My mother was a sick, angry, hungry, and very sad woman. I hated her, but I wanted to love my mother. And a week later, I murdered my mother. Went back to Santa Cruz and killed her.
In April 1973, Ed killed his own mother, Clarnell. He attacked his mother while she slept, then did terrible things to her body. He called the police and confessed to everything. At first, the police didn't believe Ed. They knew him as Big Ed.
I lived as an ordinary person most of my life.
Did you like Kemper?
I like Kemper.
What do people say? A nice guy.
A friendly giant who often talked with them. But when they searched his home, they found the evidence of his crimes.
Came out of my mother. And in a rage, I went right back in. For 7 years, she said, I haven't had sex with a man because of you, my murderous son. It's one of our arguments.
Ed was arrested and later found guilty of killing 10 people, including his grandparents, the 8 women, and his mother. Ed was sentenced to life in prison without the chance of ever getting out. He remains in prison to this day, where he has given many interviews about his life and crimes. Ed's story is a sad and scary tale of a man whose dark thoughts led him to do terrible things. His life reminds us how important it is to pay attention to the signs of trouble early on and get help for those who need it. The stories of his victims remind us of the bright futures that were unfairly stolen from him by his actions. Ed Kemper's chilling story is featured in the Netflix series Mindhunter, which delves into his interviews with FBI agents, offering a disturbing glimpse into the mind of a notorious serial killer. The story of Ed Kemper reminds us how dangerous some people can be, even if they seem friendly. His terrible actions affected many lives and continue to be studied to understand why people do such bad things. Kemper is now in prison for life, but the memories of his victims like Aiko Koo and Cindy Shaw remind us of the bright futures taken away. As we learn from these sad events, it's important to stay aware, help those who might need it, and always take care of each other. Stay safe and look out for warning signs in those around you.